Enrico Berti. His reign was essentially philosophical, and for this reason, perhaps he said that he did not feel worthy to belong to this famous academy composed mainly of renewed scientists. He studied philosophy at the University of Padua, which was famous center for the dissemination of the Aristotelianism during the Renaissance, and has preserved some traces of this tradition of Aristotle to these days, this tradition that belongs to Berti. He was professor of philosophy at the University of Perugia. I met him when he was professor in Perugia, Geneva, and Brussels, as well as professor of philosophy in Padua, where he directed the Center for the History of the Aristotelian Tradition. As a renewal of philosophy, he was elected member of the Academia Nazionale degli Lincei, Rome, which participates with our Pontifical Academy of Sciences in the heritage of the ancient Academy of Lincei, the Academy of Linz, the leader of which was Galileo Galilei, as said the Pope in this map. As president of the International Program Committee, he organized the 21 World Congress of Philosophy of the health of the very important association that the name is Federation International de Societies de Philosophy. If someone generously proposes his name for this academy, there must be a reason, and I suppose it has to do with the main field of his vast philosophical interest, and that is the philosophy of Aristotle. He devoted many years of his life to this philosopher and to the history of his influence on the European culture, with the result that he is known essentially as scholar of Aristotle. The study of Aristotelian philosophy obviously gave him the basis to develop some important reflection in most fields of philosophical thought: logic, philosophy of language, philosophy of nature, metaphysics, ethics, politics, cosmology, etc. Moreover, as Aristotle was not only a great philosopher, but also a great scientist, especially in the fields of biology, psychology, anthropology, and human sciences, the study of his works necessarily implied for Berti an interest in ancient and modern science as a whole. And science, Aristotle taught, influenced the history of science through antiquity and the Middle Age, not only in Christian countries, but also in Muslim countries, in Jewish countries, and in the reconstruction of the Aristotelian tradition obliged him to study the science of later antiquity and the Middle Age in their entirety. In modern times, as is well known, Aristotle's thought was abandoned and rejected by the development of some sciences such as astronomy, mechanics, and chemistry, and maybe this rejection led to some extent to the birth of the modern science. But Aristotle's teaching still has a fundamental role in the development of other sciences, such as biology, medicine, and human sciences, psychology, linguistics, rhetoric. And even where Aristotle's influence was rejected and opposed, his logic and method remained a model for modern science. In his studies on the present Aristotelian philosophy in the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries, Berti showed that his influence was decisive, not only of philosophers such as Hegel, Vanderbilt, Brentano, Moore, Heidegger, Gadamer, Austin, Reil, and others, but also in scientists such as Darwin, that quoted Aristotle, Jacob, Delbruck, May, Prigogine, Tom, and others. The French mathematician René Thom, for example, experienced a real discovery of Aristotelian physics in the last years of his life. For this reason, Berti taught that it is impossible to adequately study Aristotle's philosophy and its connection with the contemporary philosophy debate without knowing the state of the discussion in the main fields of contemporary science. His important contribution to the past have compelled him to become involved in some of them, not as philosophy of sciences, not a logician analyst in the method of sciences, but a philosopher deeply interested in the contents of the contemporary sciences in order to understand the universe, the planet, and the condition of the human being in a cognitive world where science have predominated. It can be said, therefore, that his work has contributed to some extent, quite decisive, to the new vision of the world that has shaped the Academy in this quarter of the century. We pray for him. Thank you very much.